So, very excited as always to have my man. Wait,
You have to introduce me.
I was doing it right here. Okay. I'm very excited. Hi, I'm Fraser O'Leary with Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation, and I am very excited as part of our Real Estate Success Accelerator series. That's a mouthful. Real Estate Success Accelerator series to have Dan Rochon of the Greetings Virginia sales team and the Cpi Community.
Impressive.
Thank you very much.
You named it, so you should probably remember it.
Here to talk about specifically how to take 100 listings a year, working less than or fewer than 50 hours a week. That's a pretty good topic.
I think so.
100 listings a year sounds like a lot.
All right, well, to qualify that, so we're in 2021. We're at the end of 2021 right now, and I've taken 76 listings so far this year. And I still have 7 weeks left, something like that. So I haven't yet taken 100 listings. Now, we've definitely helped more than 100 people sell, yet, half of those are buyers and then half are listings. So I just want to qualify that. So I'm speaking into the future.
Aspirationally.
No, not aspirationally, factually.
Creatively.
No, this is what's going to happen,
Okay,
Mr. Fraser.
right.
Okay.
No, right.
Because I'm speaking that into existence, and we're on track for that. I mean, I'm on track for 100, and we'll do it.
And the systems and the processes and the mindset that you're going to talk about are what somebody can emulate, right?
Of course. Yeah.
One of the things we were talking about this earlier. You're doing this 5-day listing challenge,
Yep.
and one of the things that you talked about yesterday on day one of the 5-day listing challenge was there's no one way to do things. There's your way to do things. So you gave a bunch of choices. So when you're talking about how to do this 100 listings, you're going to talk about the different ways that you've done it, and somebody could say, "Hey, that's a good path, and that's a good path." Before we get into that, you want to give just a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself to the world here?
Sure. My name's Dan Rochon. I am a real estate agent. I have been selling homes since 2007, and the first 6 months of my career were abysmal. I had to look at Fraser because he corrects me when I use words incorrectly, and I wanted to just double check in my brain.
Mental thesaurus.
Yes, because he likes to infer things.
Oh, geez.
Oh my goodness! Ask me about that later.
We'll put footnotes on this about the
information. All right. So I started selling homes in 2007. Had an abysmal first 6 months. In fact, I sold 0. And so it wasn't until I was in the business for about 4 months, and I was in that struggling. The hardest thing is, if you're a real estate agent in our business, the hardest phase, even if you're on a team, like a great team, like I run the Greetings Virginia Sales Network, the agents that join my team, they have like the opportunity in front of them, right, to do business. And even in that best case scenario, there's still about a 90-day lag period before you're going to have a paycheck. That is the time period between 90 and 180 days when you get licensed that just sucks, right? Like that's the tough period, because if you're unable to figure it out in that short period of time, then you're going to, very likely, you're going to struggle. And so I was one of those agents, just like everybody else. I was waiting tables at the time, part-time, Saturday and Sunday nights. Thought I had enough money to let me, float. Did not. About 4 months in, obviously I'm getting tired of not having a paycheck. Went, knocked on my broker Karen's door, and Karen was, she was, doing broker stuff. This is back before Dotloop and DocuSign, and she's going through the contracts, reviewing them. So I think I was annoying her a little bit, right? But I think she perked up when I said, "Karen, I'm going to quit." And then she was like, "Well, come on in, Dan." And so that day, Karen and I devised a plan together that I implemented, and it was designed around my way. So you talk about your way. Well, to start, it was my way, right? And this worked for me. I implemented that plan, so it was April of 2008. In April of 2009, I had so much success through implementing my plan, I bought the brokerage that I worked for. Okay, so it was 18 months as an agent. I owned that brokerage for 10 years. At the end of 2018, I sold the brokerage, and I wrote the book Real Estate Evolution, which documents, it's in my backpack.
Okay, all right. We'll do a commercial. We'll do a commercial.
You can do a screen something over top
Okay,
of this.
okay,
all right. Real Estate Evolution, and that was, it's a 279-page manual, step by step by step, that goes through the frameworks of every step of the business. So that's, how do I lead generate? How do I use my way to be able to find business? And I go through 17 different ways so that the reader can go ahead and understand, like, which of these 17 ways works for me. Then I outline exactly, here's how you do that. And so that's how you to lead generate. But then conversion's a different skill set. Conversions, we think a lot of time about conversions like a snapshot in time. The reality of it is that conversion is a series of events through time that then shows up in an instant. Okay, and so I call that persuasion. If you look up Dr. Cialdini, you'll find that he teaches a concept called persuasion. So conversion is really not about what do you say when you're in front of a client or prospective client. It's about what are the steps that happen before that. Okay.
Persuasion.
Persuasion. That's a book by Dr. Robert Cialdini. He's a PhD professor. I think he's in Berkeley in California.
And so the implication is that it's persuading, but it happens before the moment that you talk to the person somehow.
It's happening throughout the process, right? So there's concepts that I teach in the book, such as the concept of reciprocity, the concept of consistency, the concept of being able to take it's taking small little steps of commitment. So the consistency, commitment, reciprocity, those are three different concepts that I teach in the book that happen before you even meet with a buyer or meet with a seller. So that when you meet with them, now what the intention is to consult.
Okay, so we'll dig into the topic, but one of the things I wanted to throw out there or ask is, on your 5-day challenge, that the first day that I was on yesterday, you said something that I thought was really cool. And I don't know if this is giving too much away of the challenge, but fundamentally, you said, here are 3 ways that you can work on this week for your 5 days to get a listing. And one of the ways, here are the 3 different ways, and your job is to choose one that kind of resonates with you, that flows from you. And I'm thinking about your conversation with Karen that you just talked about.
Okay.
Karen said, here's your plan, or here's a plan, but it was like, what works for you? Did she say, listen, Dan, you're a guy who likes to go beat the street, so we're going to knock on doors, or you're a guy who likes to be on the phone, so we're going to cold call?
Yeah. I don't know if Karen, though she was a great leader, right? So I don't want to take anything away from her, and I'm very grateful for her guidance. I don't know if she was as insightful enough to know that the conversation that we were having, nor was I insightful at the time, to understand that we were actually discussing, it was about what I was strong at doing. And I'll tell you about that, but I do want to, if for your viewers, if they're interested in attending the challenge, for the next one, they can go to 5daylistingchallenge.com. That's the number 5.
Okay.
Yeah, not spelled out, because I run those, monthly. And so I would invite you to join me for the next one. But the conversation that we had with Karen at that time, what the strategy, my initial strategies, and remember, this was 2007, 2008, beginning of 2008. What was going on in the marketplace then?
Oh, right. It was collapsing.
It was collapsing. And the strategy, so I remember we had the conversation, says, Dan, well, have you ever heard of short sales? Short what? Because at the time, like, you've heard of short sales today, but then no. And I said, well, tell me more about that. She said, well, 1 out of 3 of the homes that you look at over there need a short sale if they want to sell. And 0 out of 150 agents over there want to actually approach those short sales. And it's really hard work. I said, wait a second. So I have no competition. I have an incredible amount of opportunity, and all I need to do is work hard.
It's your bailiwick.
I'm in. Call it a day. And so, that we didn't get to The second year in business, so that year before I bought the brokerage, I think I was like just shy of 70 transactions.
Wow.
Okay, and then
This is fundamentally your first full year, or maybe after your first full year in the business.
Yeah, like years, like 6 months to 18 months, something like that. By the third year, I remember we did 109 transactions. And then I fell back, actually, because for a couple of reasons. One is because the market shifted, it shifted again. And at the time, it was myself, my wife Tracy, and such a fantastic partner, Jennifer, who went on to just be a tremendous agent in the workplace, in the marketplace. And, so it was just the three of us, right? So it was like we were going at this pace that the wheels were falling off the bus as we were going.
Yeah.
And so the market shifted. I didn't take the time during the setup to actually lay a foundation of what's next because we were going too fast. And then simultaneously, somehow or another, I had this idea that I should buy a brokerage. That took up a little bit of my time as well, right? And so it wasn't really until 10 years later in 2018, after I sold the brokerage and wrote the book, that I was able to really get my foundation placed back underneath me again to start to build, and that's where I am today in the business.
So, I mean, you've been doing business nonstop. I think yesterday you had said that you've had a closing every month since 2008.
Since April 2008.
And then, of course, multiples in different months. But it sounds like what you're saying is that you got ramped up so quickly that you didn't build a traditional or normal real estate business that wasn't predicated on or wasn't based on short sales. And now you've sort of, once you sold the brokerage, you've kind of gone back. So you've accumulated all these lessons, all this experience, all this knowledge.
Well, when I started, if you recall.
Yes, you had you were probably balding already.
Oh, well, goodness.
But it is a different picture of Dan Rochon in 2008. That is true. Yeah. All right, so let's dive into it. I'm an agent. I'm either a new agent or I'm a agent. Like you were talking about yesterday, everybody wants listings. Listings is the way to go. So tell me a little bit about how you help agents, or what advice you give to agents to emulate your success.
Well, first, I like the word emulate, yet I wouldn't encourage for anybody to emulate my success. I would encourage for you to do is to look at myself or anybody. I mean, there's many others that you could emulate as well. Because if you are a relational person, if like you, Frazier, right? I'm surprised you haven't touched me 5 times since we've been here.
You touched me first? That's not the way it's supposed to work.
All right, so if you are that, like when Frazier comes in the room, when you come in the room, people are attracted to you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
I mean, maybe they're delusional, but nonetheless, they're attracted to you, okay? And so, you make people feel good. And so now I hope that, I'm certainly not repelling people, right? But people have a different feeling around me. I think the feeling that many people have is that they can trust me, that I have the knowledge to be able to help them achieve a goal or solve a problem. Okay, that's 2 different people that are really good friends, right? We've known each other for a long time, right? And then also, it'd be different people, okay? And so now, I wouldn't necessarily ask if you were an agent, Frazier, for you to emulate me.
Right.
All right, so the starting point is to find who is your role model. All right, and then that's going to be based off of taking an introspective look at yourself first. Okay, so it's to be able to be successful. And these are the pieces that, your broker's not going to tell you this. I mean, it's just the reality of it. Maybe they will, I don't know, but very few will. It's like, what's the foundation to success in sales? Okay, well, who am I? Right, like, who has that conversation?
Right.
So, like we're having the conversations, like go out to a FISBO, go do this, go do that. But before you even get there, you have to have an honest assessment of who am I? What are my strengths? What are my behaviors, my philosophies, my culture, my upbringing, my beliefs, my weaknesses? And then you figure out where it is, because again, in the book Real Estate Evolution, I teach 17 different options. In the listing challenge, I teach 3. And I do 3 because one of them is the designed to be able to help people who are that relational person. The other is designed to help that person who's that prospector. Give me a phone and a phone book, I'll do business all day long. But I recognize most people don't want to do that. And that's okay. I'm not going to tell you to do that unless if that's what your gig is. And then the third option is for that more analytical person. That person is going to follow a process, more process oriented. Okay, because the reality of it is in this business, we can all succeed. But the challenge is that there's, boom, 19,000 things that are thrown at you. Here's a new shiny object. Here's a new shiny object. Here's a new shiny object. And, you start it, you do it for 6 weeks, and then you say, that doesn't work. And then you do the next, and then you just repeat that cycle.
So let me ask you a question. I'm reminded, because we're in the room,
Yeah.
where we did that presentation last month with Sandy, talking about discovering who you are in terms of your brand message.
Yeah.
When people are doing the shiny object, do they dump the shiny object and the new strategy or the new tactic because it doesn't work, or because it doesn't resonate with them enough that they can continue to do it? I guess the question is, do agents do the things that really resonate with them? Is that the path? Do people just do what resonates with them?
I think both.
Okay.
So your question is, do they quit because they just go on to the next thing, or do they quit because it's not the right thing for them to do? Is that your question?
Yeah.
Okay. So the answer to that is both. Okay. But before you get to even that point of it, right, that's the foundational point of, let me set this up so that I understand who I am.
Right.
Now I understand who I am. Now there's 17 options of things I could do. So let me categorize that. Let me look at the top 3. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the top 3, and then of those 3, if you're new to business, I'm going to recommend to do one of those 3. If you've been around and you already have one system knocked out, do a second, or up to 3, but don't really go more than 3. That would be your short-term lead generation strategy.
Yeah, put some meat on
I will.
Okay.
One more thing is, so you have 1 to 3 short-term lead generation strategies. You have 1 long-term lead generation strategy. Okay, and the reason why is because that long-term lead generation strategy takes 18 months to pay dividends. I'll give you some examples of that first. And so you have to eat now.
Right.
Okay, and so as your business develops, then you can add on top of that as you start to find the leverage, as you start to find the people, etc. So when you're looking at a long-term strategy, some examples of that would be neighborhood marketing for a neighborhood niche, a sociographic marketing to a group of people. It could be, once you start getting some money, it could be a radio advertising. You don't want to do that today if you're new to the business, because you have to get business, right? Whether it's one of these 17 ways or one of these 4 or 5 ways. And the only way that you can get business is either through prospecting or marketing. Prospecting costs you time, marketing costs you money. Okay, so you don't even want to consider radio advertising, for example, because that costs you a ton of money. But the way that this works is, if you want to, when you're ready in your business to do that, you need to put aside 18 months of reserves. Okay? So if it's, well, think about that.
I think about that. I'm just thinking about people how are they putting away 18 months of reserves?
It's a process, right? We're going up, we're climbing a mountain.
Okay.
At the beginning, you probably don't have that, right? But guess what? Is Zillow a marketing play or a prospecting play?
Marketing.
Right. Lots of new agents do Zillow. Oh, wait, that was an embedded command. Don't do Zillow.
Oh, okay.
I didn't say that the way I intended.
Gotcha.
Okay. Lots of new agents implement that strategy. How many of those new agents actually can pay the bill for 18 months before they implement it?
Before they get the return, right?
Well, before they start, on day one. On day one, do I have 18 months in the bank for any market initiative, for anything that's going to cost me money? And the way that you do that is you get a return. Say it's 4 months in. You take that return, you take
Return being a commission.
Commission,
Okay.
yeah. 10% of that commission, you put it back into your marketing bucket. So I have a bank account just for marketing. 10% of every dollar that I make, my companies make, goes into that bucket, goes into that bank account. And so then I adjust. Okay, so as that bank account grows and as I invest 10% of the proceeds into there, then I sit there and I can, at any given time, I can do a marketing initiative. Somebody calls me with a great idea, sure, let me look at the bank account.
Right.
How much does it cost? Can I pay for the next 18 months? Those are the questions that I ask.
I gotcha.
Okay, so that's the long-term strategy. Now, right now, if you're newer to the business, you're going to be looking for a short-term strategy. So now you went to those 3 behaviors that I discussed with you. The 3 strategies that I'm teaching in the listing challenge right now are the open house strategy, that's the Fraser type, are the for sale by owner strategy, and the Facebook lead generator strategy. The Facebook lead generator strategy is actually more resonates with me more than the for sale by owner, the easy way strategy, because what most agents think, they think like, oh, FSBO, that is a prospect, or like an aggressive type agent's pursuit. That's not true. Okay, that's where so many agents fail at FSBOs. The reality of it is for sale by owner is actually a relationship-based strategy. When my agents when they visit with a for sale by owner, I tell them, don't take the listing. Your job is to go there to create the relationship.
So one of the things you said, and this is just so fresh in my mind because of Monday, you were talking, because the subtitle of your 5-day listing challenge is, how to take a listing in the next 5 days without cold calling, without begging, and without
Door knocking.
And
there's an asterisk to that, or working 18 hours a day. That didn't make the title because you're supposed to do it in things of 3, so that got shot from the title.
So without going crazy with the amount of time you're working, but when you were talking about FSBOs, you had to on your challenge, you had to very explicitly say, guys, I'm not talking door knocking. I'm not talking cold calling, because when people think marketing to FSBOs as a way of getting a listing, that's where they immediately go. Yeah. Right? Okay, so I remember that very clearly.
You are a great student, Mr.
Thank you very much. And according to you, people are very attracted to me as well.
Yes. So the way that we get the appointment, so then you may be asking yourself, how do you get the for sale by owner appointment? Texting. And I've got a very specific text script that I teach in the challenge, that for every 7 people that I text, 1 will meet with me. For every 7 that I meet, 1 will hire me.
And these are for sale by owners.
Correct.
Who are out there advertising their home for sale.
That's right. Okay. And so then if you look at it, that strategy is about going to go create the relationship, then providing value and contributing to them. Okay, so that's an example of a short-term strategy that you can employ today. And I don't care if you got your license yesterday, you can have business in the next 45 days and closes within the next 60 days. Guaranteed, as long as you believe in the strategy and you implement it. And I'm going to say more importantly, you believe in yourself. When you believe in those 2 things, whether it's the for sale by owner strategy that I teach, or the open house, or any of the other 15 strategies, whatever it is, you have to first believe in the strategy. To be able to believe in that, it has to resonate with who you are. Then you have to believe in yourself. If any of those pieces are missing, it's going to be a challenge. Okay? Now, sometimes you have to take blind faith on one of those. That may be blind faith on the strategy. The way that you can mitigate that is that's when you look for the role models. That's where you started. You sat there and say, Dan, how can people emulate you? And I said, don't emulate me unless if I'm the guy that you resonate with. If you don't resonate with me, don't emulate me. Go find that role model. Go find that mentor. Okay, go find that person that's doing, there's a concept that I teach in the book called, and also in the CPI certification that I teach, called If Yes, Then How. So here's the concept. If somebody who looks just like you when you look in the mirror, same age, same culture, same background, same everything. If you're married, say married, single, whatever, look exactly like you, and they've already achieved whatever it is that you want to achieve. Now you have evidence. So this is a way that you can then, this is a way to gain that confidence in yourself. So find that role model first. Find that they look exactly like you. Now I have that person to emulate. So now, so remember I said, if yes, then how's the concept? I just answer the question yes. So if yes, in other words, if somebody else can do it, then now the only question is how. And to be able to answer that question, all you simply need to do is how did they do it? And then you build those steps.
All right, I want to ask you this question, but I want to just double check something.
Okay. What time is it?
Do you know, Kelly?
Yeah, it's 10:30.
All right, thank you.
Okay,
Yep.
so we'll do like 10 to 12 more minutes?
That's fine. No more than 15.
Yeah, I've got to run down shortly.
All right, so here's the question. Everybody knows that there are strategies out there
Yep.
and tactics, and like you said, you can find a role model who's done it a certain way, and you can get one that sort of is built to succeed because it resonates with who you are. So it sounds to me like you said there are two components to success. One is believing in the strategy, and the other one is believing in yourself. It sounds to me like that's where people fall down. Now, maybe what they do is chase their strategy or chase a tactic, but I would bet that if you asked somebody and you said, is this going to work? They could say yes. But if I said, is this going to work for you? They would be more dubious because it's going to require them to work that strategy. I mean, you've seen this happen a million times. Why do people not believe in themselves enough to commit to a strategy or commit to a plan?
I don't know if I can give you a good answer of why people don't believe in themselves. I know I can share with you how people can believe in themselves.
Okay.
And sometimes that's about having a blind faith. Okay, so until you have an absolute faith. On day one, when I sat there with Karen, and Karen said to me, here's the strategy. Okay, here's the tactics. The next thing I had to do was then to say, okay, well, who's doing this? I found two guys out in Phoenix, Arizona who were doing it.
Role models.
Role models,
Okay.
yeah. I found two guys in Phoenix, Arizona who were already doing it, already successful, because Phoenix was a little bit before the Northern Virginia area, DC, and their downturn. Okay, so they were probably 9 months to a year ahead of us in the market, and so people had already sort of figured this out. So there was a role model for me. So for me, it was okay. I have to have some sort of faith. So at first it's going to be blind faith. So if I have somebody else, and these guys look just like me, they're the same age as me, etc. And if they can do it, then I know it can be done. All right, so that was the first step of blind faith. Then, until I do it, until I get the return, you really don't have absolute faith.
Right.
So it's almost like you have to borrow the faith from somebody else. So I really want to overemphasize the fact that role model is a vital piece to you finding that belief in yourself until you can then have the belief in yourself. Okay, so that's the process to get that belief.
Well, and it's interesting. It's capital, right? It's capital for your business. You're borrowing it from somebody else.
Sure.
That faith, that confidence, that belief to launch your business, and then you're getting results that you can use to bootstrap and continue your business. So you're basically finding a sugar daddy, right? You're finding a venture capitalist, but it's just a role model.
Yeah, a venture capitalist, with what they're investing into you is not money or time. They're investing ideas and faith.
Yeah. Well, I'd love for you to continue and talk about that. I think one big thing is that when you, in the 5-day challenge, choosing which of the 3 strategies during that period, and then as you move forward with like the 17 strategies, it really is like, does it resonate enough to create energy for you so you're not gonna you're not going to sabotage yourself, right? Like you would sabotage, I don't know, would you sabotage yourself doing open houses early
Yes.
on? Okay. And somebody else would sabotage themselves, reaching out to FSBOs. And they're not systematic enough, right? So, do you want to talk a little bit about how you approach the 5-day challenge?
Sure. So 5 days, if you consider that as 5 steps. All right. So one of the things that you have to understand here is that your clients want a result. All right. And so you're here and this is what they want. It's that mountain that you have to climb. Okay. So here's where you are. Here's the result that they want. The result that they want is
Sell their house.
sell their house. Most money, easiest process. Here's where you are. And where you are is to approach them to be able to get them to hire you. And then you walk them up the staircase step by step by step. Now, we don't go through that piece in the challenge. What we go through in the challenge is what happens below here to be able to get to here. All right, so step number 1 is identify your God-given unique skill set. That's what we do on day 1. Once we understand this is who I am, this is my, for lack of a better term, my superpower. Now we understand that. Now we identify, well, which of these 3 strategies will we then employ? So then on day 2, what we do is now that we understand which of the tactics we're going to implement, whether that be for sale by owner, open house, or Facebook, and again, there's other options, but this is what I teach in the curriculum, in the 5-day strategy, or the 5-day listing challenge. Now we're going to take one of those 3, and now we're going to do the legwork of let me get the information that I need. Very simple, very simple. The homework for day 2 is just simply go in and let me find the data. Let me find the contact information. If you're doing an open house, let me find the open houses. The biggest objection I get from agents who want to do the open house strategy who are new, guess what that is?
I don't know anybody who wants to have me do an open house.
I don't have a listing.
Oh, of course.
They don't even consider the fact that they can host it for somebody else, right?
They got somebody right next to them who would love to have them host
Hey,
an open house.
here's the thing. Do my open house, right? I mean, you have to be my broker to do that, right? But that's the reality of it. Is like I need agents as a top listing agent to be able to host the open houses for me. All right, so that's what you're doing on day 1 and 2 is you're finding the data, you're getting set up, so that then as you go up that staircase, remember here's where you're meeting them and here's where you start. As you go up that staircase, what you're doing is you're getting the data, and then how do I approach that person? What do I do to prepare for the open house to get as many people into this open house as possible? And how do I turn an open house into a listing?
That's what I'm interested in.
I'll get there in a second. How do I turn a Facebook lead into a listing? For sale by owner, that's a little bit more clear, okay? Yeah. I'll give you an example. I was preparing for the challenge, and I knew that I wanted to do a Facebook lead. I knew I wanted to record a live fire conversation.
Okay.
I have a list of probably about 100 Facebook leads to call. My very first one I did it, and I'm going to tell you, it doesn't normally, it hardly ever happens like this. My very first person I called, hi, it's Dan, Rochon, ABC Realty. I see that you're looking for homes online. I'm just curious, are you in the market to buy a home? She says, well, no, I'm not really. I have the conversation. She ends up being a buyer and a seller.
Oh, geez.
A buyer and a seller. Mm-hmm. My first one out of the gates. I'm like, whoa, okay? But the thing is understanding. I'll give you the process of that conversation. I'll break it down into steps for you. Very simply, that conversation was about a 10-minute conversation, and you can listen to it when you join the challenge. That process was simply what I call the Cpi Communication Model, which is 3 steps. Be in rapport, ask in-depth questions, actively listen. And I go deeper into what is rapport and how do you create rapport and how do you ask in-depth questions and what are the tools that you need to be able to do that. What is active listening and how do you actively listen? Okay, so that was an example of, okay, here's what you're doing on around day 3 is you're having those conversations. Okay, you're starting to, for the open house, you're starting to prepare for the open house. For the for sale by owner, you're starting to go on your first appointment. Okay, and then it's difficult for me to go in this context because I'm sort of teaching 3 different concepts at the same time right now. Yeah. Okay, but what I want you to understand is that there's a step by step in each of these approaches. Okay, so as you prepare for the opportunity, then you place the legwork into place, then you implement, then you start in that what we talked about before with that persuasion. Okay, so then you start transitioning into, once you get a prospective client, for example, the lady that I spoke with, that I just told you about, where I am now in that is, so we walked up the stairs here, we stopped here, I found a prospect. Now, here's the appointment, here's her home sold. So now, what the next step is now for me to communicate to her the value that I provide, is to communicate to her why she should hire me before I ever meet with her. So that when I meet with her, she's already decided this is the guy for me.
Right.
Okay, and so that's the process. What you have to understand is, what I think so many agents do is they don't really consider what's the next step. One last thing, let me give you a little trick on this. The easiest thing for you, no matter where you are in the process, is ask yourself the question, what's the next step? What is the next thing that has to happen right now for me to get to that finish line? Okay, if you get a lead and you have an email address, what's the next step?
Email them.
Email them to do what?
Ask them a question.
Ask them a question to get them their phone number.
Okay.
You get an email address, what's the next step? You want the phone number. There's 3 or 4 steps in between that to be able to make that happen. You get the phone number, what's the next thing you need to do? Get them on the phone. You get them on the phone, what's the next thing that you need to do? Qualify them. Do they have motivations? Do they have means? You understand they have motivation and means, what's the next step you have to do? Set an appointment. You set an appointment, what's the next thing you have to do? Let them understand the value that you present to them. And just keep that next step as small as possible, and you'll have your answer.
3 really cool things. One is, there's a book called Getting Things Done. You ever heard that? And one of the things he talks about is, just like what you're saying, is your job is to close loops. You can't close a loop unless you know what that next step is.
Yep. And
if you have a next step, there's no energy, right? You're either going to do the next step or you're not going to do the next step. Second thing is, this is part of what you're talking about, is you have your path. I wonder, is it a challenge for people to hold back and not jump on a lead, not jump on a call?
Yes, yeah.
Because it's kind of like, remember the Ernest and Julio Gallo commercial that says, "We'll sell no wine before it's time"?
Oh, sure.
Like, you should not be talking to a client until you've done this persuasion, because then you're going to be, you can turn a yes into a no in the same way that you could turn a no into a yes. But then the last thing, and this is Fraser issue, you're out there planting seeds, you're taking action that are going to create results, but you get impatient. Mm-hmm. And you start digging up the seeds that you planted and checking on them. Are they working? Is it working? And then you get discouraged if they're not working as quickly. So I'm interested, as you're saying to people, just follow the next step, just follow this plan, just do these actions. How do you convince people to not jump into a phone call, but maybe even more damaging, to not expect a result before the result should be happening?
I was talking to an agent 2 days ago, an agent that I coach, and I said, "What's your biggest challenge?" She says, "I'm so sick of working with flaky buyers." Now, that statement indicates to me that that agent's not following a process. And the reason why that indicates to me that she's not following a process is because not every buyer is flaky. There are buyers that buy. In fact, every single home that is sold has a buyer that buys. 100% of them. So if we can qualify that, and we understand, is it real that she's coming across flaky buyers? Yes. She's coming across the same buyers as any other agent that is not coming across flaky buyers, though. So where's her DNA in that conversation? Okay, and that's the piece there. Now, certainly as a coach, it's a little bit tactful because you don't want to, I want to empower her and help her understand that herself rather than just be like, well, that's your fault, right? That's not what I'm doing as a coach. What I'm doing as a coach is understanding when I hear that to say, wait, is it true that every buyer's flaky? No. And we just qualified that. So what's causing her to come across flaky buyers? So then you start unraveling it, and then you'll find that there's something, and I haven't gotten there with her yet, but I know what we're going to find. You go down that stair step, and there's something on that staircase of walking it, up the process that she's doing that's causing for her not to get the results. Now, I have some suspicion of what that may be,
Right.
Because there's patterns. Yet, until I really dive deep with her, I'm not going to know exactly what it is for her. I know what it's going to be. It's going to be one of 3 or 4 different types of things, but that's the thing right there to understand that if you're not producing the results that you want to produce, there's probably something that you're doing before you get to that point that you could alter or you can change.
Which is incredibly uplifting. I mean, the idea that there's cause and effect in the universe is simultaneously the most depressing thing because it means that you've created the results you're getting.
Yeah, you're in charge.
You're in charge. Damn it. But when people do the 5-day challenge, you start with who you are. You then dig into the data. Getting to know what you need to know. Day 3 was what?
As you walk through, there's going to be different tactics. Depending on which tactic you're going to take, there's going to be a different action for each of the day, right? If you can think about this from like a high-level type viewpoint, I will walk you through the exact steps of what to do depending on the tactic that you're employing.
Right.
Okay, so on day 3, if you can consider that's more action-oriented. Day 1 and 2 are sort of foundational. Day 3 is more action-oriented. Day 4 and 5 are also action-oriented, right? But the process there, depending on the tactic that you're employing, is it's either you're visiting for sale by owners. It's, okay, well, now what do I do to create that relationship?
Right.
What do I do to, we already know how to set the appointment. I'll show you how to do that. Now I'm going to attend the appointment. In fact, on the 3rd day, I'm going to have tomorrow, you're not going to see this tomorrow because, it depends when you're watching this, but in the challenge tomorrow, I'm going to have 2 agents in the field attending live appointments with for sale by owners. But here's the thing. I don't know who those for sale by owners are going to be.
Right.
That's less than 24 hours from right now.
Right.
I haven't set the appointments yet.
Right.
That's how much faith I have that I'm going to make a promise to about 100 people when I do the challenge later today to say, hey, come back tomorrow. I'm going to show you a live appointment.
Right.
I haven't set those appointments yet,
Well,
but I know the process so well. I know what it's going to produce.
And that's, I think, what's so powerful. We can end with this or your response to this is, breaking things down to see what, like you're saying, with your staircase, right? There's your input, which is taking some action or making some decision. And then that action comes back dressed in a result. It's not a listing appointment. It's not a sale. It's something, right? It's somebody raising their hand, or it's you getting an email or something like that. And then that leads to this and leads to this and leads to this. And if you just keep following that staircase, then you'll get there. But you don't jump a step, right? Yeah. Like, we used to in high school run up 2 steps at a time or whatever. You don't jump a step because there is a next step and there's a reason that you take that next step. And I wonder, let me ask you this point blank. On Friday, what is the intermediate result? What is the effect that somebody is going to get within those 5 days? Because it's not going to be a listing agreement, probably.
Maybe,
it could be,
yeah.
but it's going to be something that shows them that the steps work.
Yeah.
And if the steps work, and you want to get to the top of the staircase, then you'll walk up the staircase. It's not too hard. The steps are close enough, right? And what you want is up there. So what is somebody likely to see if they follow the steps at the end of 5 days?
You asked me earlier when I shared with you that the 2 reasons why people won't succeed in a strategy is they either don't believe in the strategy and implement it, or they don't believe in themselves. On day 5, what I want the students to have is that faith that they found a way, even if they haven't figured out every single step, they found a way that works for you, right? That works for them. And that's what the ultimate goal of the challenge is to help you identify your way, to help you to identify that you have an understanding that there actually is a way that works for you, and you're not going to unravel the entire, it's taken me 15 years to learn this. You're not going to learn that in 5 days. I'm not going to promise you a magic bullet, a magic pill. I will promise you, however, that you'll have the faith that there is a pathway for you, and that you'll start to walk that journey.
Dan, as always, a delight. Very excited about day 2 of the 5-day listening challenge. Show us that book again.
Again, this is the first time.
I don't know why you haven't held it up the whole time.
That's right.
So this is Real Estate Evolution and the 10-step guide to CPI, which stands for Consistent and Predictable Income for Real Estate Agents. Hold on. I want to, as we finish up, because I've not had this opportunity to do this. I'm sure I've had the opportunity. I've not taken the opportunity. To Fraser O'Leary, I appreciate the many conversations we had during the last time I wrote. You helped me formulate my thoughts in the best possible way. I also value that you told me the truth when I needed to hear your critical feedback. You are a voice of reason to talk me out of using my mugshot photo on the cover of the book. Thank you, Fraser. Horrible idea. And so would you say, if you had to quantify the level of contribution I've had to your success, would it be 100%, 95%, or somewhere in between?
Well, so this book, there's 90,000 words in this book.
Oh, he's quantifying it as a fraction. Although I
gave you a paragraph. I gave you a paragraph.
I watched you be unable to do fractions in that.
I gave you a paragraph.
All right, never mind. We'll edit all this out in post. Dan, thank you very much for joining us on our first Real Estate Success Accelerator. I encourage everybody to go to 5daylistingchallenge.com. And then where can they find the book?
www.therealestateevolution.com. You can get a special discount there. It'll be less than $10. Or you can find it on Amazon and on Audible as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan.